Mystic River Pet Care. And as you can imagine, I really spend a lot of time with dogs, observing them, watching them as we go for our walks, as they really gather information from their environment, and they're smelling things and sticking their noses into things and going into places you and I would never, ever consider going into, believe me. Some of the places they go into are unreal. And they get into a little bit of trouble in some of those places, and I'd like to just talk about 3 of the ways dogs have problems when they are out and about. And the first one is that some of those places that they go into very frequently have poison ivy. And that's not a problem for your dog, because dogs are not sensitive to poison ivy. But just having a dog brush up against poison ivy can have the oil be on their skin, and then just when you go and pat your dog, you now have the oil on your skin, and you can end up scratching like a hound for the next 2 weeks. So how to prevent this? The best way to prevent it is to just avoid poison ivy altogether and to be sure that your dog does. But you have to know what poison ivy looks like and where poison ivy grows. Any ideas about what poison ivy looks like?
Leaves of 3, let it be.
Leaves of 3, let it be, yeah. And a lot of people think it's green leaves and shiny leaves. But poison ivy isn't always green and it isn't always shiny. Right now in the spring, the leaves are small, they're almond shaped, and they're bright red and very shiny. And as we get into summer, they change their shape. They're no longer really almond shaped. They do become green and shiny, and as summer goes on and fall is approaching, they lose a little bit of that sheen, and they're no longer shiny. So if you're looking for 3 shiny green leaves, you're looking for the wrong thing in the fall. In the fall, they usually get fairly dull, and they may even change back to a reddish brown and yellow color. So, avoid those. Where does poison ivy like to grow? It grows along walkways, along roadways, right where your dog is walking and where your dog is poking into and getting into. So you need to be aware when you're walking of what your dog is getting into. Now, if you've tried to have your dog avoid those spots, but you know you haven't been successful, the best way to avoid a case of poison ivy yourself is to get your dog home and wash that dog right away with just any kind of shampoo or detergent, or I really like using a product called Technu, which was developed specifically for poison ivy, to combat poison ivy. It seems to work really well. So if you have a dog, you might want to just have some of that on hand, just in case. You don't want to have to be running out to the drugstore to get it when you've got your dog with poison ivy, who might be laying down on a chair or something else and rubbing that off onto other places that you can end up with poison ivy. So avoid the poison ivy. If you can't, wash. Also, another problem that we have often, and this has been mentioned already today, is something that I ran into 3 times last year. At the end of the day, I just had this little prickly feeling on my skin, and I thought, oh, I wonder what that is. And so I examined myself, and sure enough, I had ticks. And this happened to me 3 times last year. And it just feels like a little pinch when a tick is embedding into you. It doesn't really hurt. You could really almost miss it happening, but it's kind of a creepy feeling when you do recognize what it is. So when that happens to me, I follow the guidelines set out by the American Veterinary Medical Association, the AVMA. And their guidelines for removing a tick are: 1, get your tweezers and make the tweezer go right down as close to the skin as possible and pull the tick out firmly and evenly, and pull it out straight. Don't twist it, because if you twist it, the mouth parts of the tick can put their bacteria and viruses into your system. So you want to pull that tick out straight, and then you to wash off your skin and put on some alcohol or other disinfectant. You use the same exact procedure on your dog. And the best way to find a tick is when you get home, just feel all over in your dog. Lots of times they're on the back of their neck or up near their heads, because that's where they've been poking into things where ticks are likely to be found. In the olden days, they used to say to soak on a cotton ball with alcohol and leave it on there for a couple of minutes to incapacitate the tick. But they're saying that what happens now, frequently they found out, that the tick actually regurgitates the toxins into the system if you cover them with alcohol like that. So not to do that anymore, just to go ahead and remove it and then to wipe off with a little alcohol. And last on the agenda today is what to do when your little furry friend goes after the black and white visitor in your yard. And I'll just finish up by telling you, I won't tell you the formula, but I have a great formula for a soap you can use when your pet comes home smelling like Pepe Le Pew, which they may very well do. And I have that on my handout for you, and also pictures of poison ivy in the 3 different C's